Stupid kids. Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is Ozone Ocean with Tanserine and Baines on the Drunkduck Quackcast. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, last week I forgot to introduce you guys.
We heard about that from a lot of people.
That's why we went no contact with you for a week.
Right.
I had to add an extra bit in where I introduced you. So yeah, it's quite. What I should have done was copied it from another Quackcast where I introduce you and you guys say hi. You never have to do it again. You always just.
Oh. You see, people, you can't believe anything you hear.
Yeah, and then I just train an AI to do your voices, and then I don't need you guys.
Oh my god!
Exactly.
Yes, you probably could because we have all these recordings, right?
Yeah.
How that would go.
And get ChatGTP to do Baines. Okay, so you've got to do like a script for Baines for the Quack.
There'd be so much stuttering and stammering, and the AI wouldn't know what to do.
So the AI version of you is just be going, for the whole thing.
Exactly.
Oh dear. And for me, it'll just be going, oh dear. Yeah, so I'm not immune to that either. I know.
And now I would be just doing TED Talks with false information in it that the AI pulls out of its butt. So.
Yeah.
It's pegged us. We never have to do Quackcasts. None of us have to do the Quackcasts. It's AI will process all. But before we get into all that, this particular Quackcast is about nudity, nakedness, no clothes, nutty in the nud, all that kind of stuff. In webcomics or in media in general, but mainly webcomics because that's our main focus. But before we get into that, we'll have to bring up the featured comics. So the feature this week was a feature I featured, and it was called Gaia Comic. So I'm going to tell you about Gaia Comic now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Gaia Comic. Brave young Elias is a rival with the arrogant Sabdril for the love of Lilith, a powerful wizard, but his romantic ambitions don't seem to be going anywhere, and besides, these magic students have other things on their minds at the moment. Graduation is just around the corner. What will they do once they've finished magic school? It's not going to be a smooth, easy road, though. Murder, mayhem, and potential war are just around the corner. All their ambitions and plans for the future might just crumble to ashes. But who knows what the future holds? Gaia Comic is an epic fantasy told in a manga style. It features humor, action, magic, and fighting. The art is very well finished to a high degree. It's brightly colored and slickly professional. This is a very good little comic. It's starting off with a bit of an exciting beginning, and then slowly getting into its groove. So I hope you enjoy this comic. It looks like it's going to be one that is regularly updating because it's already been posted somewhere else. So that's a good help. So you'll be able to read along and have a lot of stuff to look forward to. So I hope you enjoy Gaia Comic. It's by Novell, and it's rated T for teen. And that was the featured comic, Gaia Comic. Okay, so next up we have the featured music. This week Gummoss has given us a theme to a comic called Nordmand. There we are, Nordmand. So, dance a jig and slap your leathern heels into the wooden floorboards, kick up dust and jump to the infectious rhythm Grab a partner, hook your arm into theirs, and take a spin. This is a fun, folkish, high-energy dance tune made with traditional instruments. So take it away, Gummels, with the theme to Nordman. And that was Gummels' theme to Norman, which is a comic that's looking pretty cool, and it's rated T for teen. It's by Heart. So yeah, Heart. Wasn't that an 80s, 70s band that had a lot of good songs like These Dreams? That was my favorite one. These Dreams, Barracuda, a lot of other songs. Baines, you got to remember them.
Of course, yeah.
I remember the guitarist for some reason, and nobody else.
Oh, that was the blonde lady with the cool hair. Yeah, she's pretty groovy.
They were cool looking. I don't know the individual members at all. I remember they were very big. They had some huge songs, successful songs. But yeah.
Oh, they did. Yeah, they were a huge band back in the day. Massive. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, this isn't the talking about old 80s and 70s bands. This is the Quackcast on Nudity.
Well, sometimes it is.
It always is, really. Always. You know, actually, speaking of 70s and 80s bands, I'm just going to do it anyway. I don't care. This is our Quackcast, and we can do what we want. Like, I'd never heard of the band called Rush. Never heard them. Didn't grow up with them. They didn't exist in Australia at all.
I really like them.
Yeah. And I just didn't know existed. And like a few years ago, I started watching these. Well, I've always watched American sitcoms, but these American sitcoms started mentioning Rush and started saying, "Oh yeah, this Getty guy. Oh my god, he's the best like guitarist or whatever ever or singer. I don't know. I don't know what he does." And they just kept talking about it, and I thought, what? And people were talking about like as if they grew up with this band. And I thought, why have I never seen or heard anything on American TV shows, or movies about Rush before? Why are they talking about it now? What is this weird conspiracy that they pretended this band existed and they were so huge? I don't know, but yeah, that was a totally new thing introduced to me that I'd never heard of before, and yeah, Rush.
Until recent years?
Yeah.
Or
had no idea they existed.
How do you know about Rush, Chance? I'm kind of surprised that in Greece
I came across. Okay, so back in the anti-memorandum days, we used to have a show, it wasn't a podcast. It was like a internet TV, which was very popular in Greece at the time because people were going to the internet rather than mainstream media to get informed. So we had this regular show, and which was political commentary and everything, and we had songs that we would put to support certain ideas, get them into the wind down or to rile up, depending. And I needed certain songs, and sometimes I didn't have out of the top of my head, and I had to search for lyrics, and that's how I got to find them. Because it was a song. I don't remember which one exactly, because a lot of their songs are about this, like the persevering and pushing forward. I think it was for the Olympics at some point. They made the song about the Olympics, Rush. But anyway, that's how I got to know them, and I realize now that for me every song is Rush, and I don't remember any title. It's the Rush song, because I would list it for our producer. Like, these are the songs, play them at this and this and this and this point when I give you the signal. So play the Rush. so yeah, all of them are Rush songs right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, they are actually a genuinely good band, and I don't know why they were never really played in Australia. So it's a weird blind spot of mine. But we have diverted.
Well, they're Canadian.
So I'll just mention Nudity again. So go on, Ben.
Yeah, they are Canadian. So just gonna sort of make a last comment on Rush. Yes, I don't know how they ever got in the States, but I know they toured there. I've heard stories about them touring and opening for Kiss back in the day, and Kiss would be down partying with all these like ladies and like all these people at the show, and like having this crazy carousing time, and then looking around and saying like, "Where's Rush? Where's the opening band?" So like Gene Simmons or whatever would go up to find them, and they were all up in their dressing room reading, all three of them reading. So they're these very like kind of intellectual guys, especially Neil Peart, the drummer, who's a legendary drummer, wrote a lot of their lyrics. I think passed away sadly, and Rush is no longer. But the other two guys are still around. Anyway,
so what was the other guy's name? Geddy something.
Geddy Lee, yeah, he's
Geddy
the
Lee. That's
and bass player. Amazing.
So Tom Sawyer was their big famous song.
Yeah,
one of them. What's the other one? Something small town, something. Oh, I can't remember it.
I'm not really schooled on Rush. They were pretty big because they're Canadian. I've known them since I was in high school, but I like them, but it was never 100%. I don't really know a lot about their catalog or anything.
Oh well. Well, this is the Rush cast now. I'm sorry, guys. What was that?
That was my Rush impression.
Oh dear. Well, okay, back to Nudity then. What were we going to say about Nudity? Something? I don't know. It's a pretty limited subject. It's not much to Nudity, is there? No, of course. Nudity is a huge subject. It's big. It's giant. It's all consuming. It's everywhere. Drunkduck is a very unique website, I think. Well, a unique comic host in that we don't mind people having nudity in their webcomics. We don't put a lot of restrictions on you. If you have nudity in your webcomic, you can be rated M for mature. So please do that if you have nudity. And you can have like full frontal nudity as long as there's no sexual contact. Like obvious sexual contact, like showing all the bits and pieces mechanically doing their stuff, because then you're A-rated, and then the only people who can see that are people who are logged into the site and people who are adult age. So that's the restriction we have. But nudity in general is not a crime on Drunkduck. You do have to be mature rated, so children who are logged into the site can't see it.
So that nobody points and snickers and laughs like, I saw it.
Yeah.
Exactly. No immature people looking at the nudity here. You have to be totally mature about it.
You have to be mature.
Exactly. But it's a very unique site in that we do allow that kind of stuff, which I think is a good, healthy sort of thing. We're not embarrassed by it. We're not offended. We don't have to have anyone that we go, oh no, sorry, our corporate overlords, we can't show this. Like our corporate overlords say that we can't do this, so I'm sorry, we can't do it. Like a lot of these sites, that's the reason they can't show it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's huge. Yeah, like as more and more of the internet is sort of taken over by giant corporations, and it's like all this investment capital stuff and advertiser friendly stuff. Like you hear about all these crackdowns and shadow bannings, and it sucks. And so glad that the duck is here.
Well, the internet.
We are the last fortress of nudity.
Naked Fortress. That's what we should rename the site to.
Oh my god! Yes.
Naked Fortress. Tons, you coined it.
We did it together. It now sounds wrong.
Oh god. Especially in the context of nudity. See, that's why you have to be careful.
Yeah, see, that's why you have to be mature. Or you wouldn't have to be sneaking like we are now.
Yeah, and we're always snickering, unfortunately. So,
Well, yeah, true.
Well, yeah, okay, so nudity is a thing that, because of the way our society is structured in various ways, there's taboos around nudity, so you have to be careful about it. In what you can show and where you can show it. Like even us, even though we show nudity, we still have those restrictions, limited as they are, and they have to be there because look, the world is a giant place. It's not just like the particular societies or cultures that approve of nudity and that happen with it. The world is really huge, and there's a lot of different cultures and things, and we have to sort of blend in. We have to sort of
and you know what, you should be able to give people a heads up on what they are signing up for, so that they can make an informed choice whether they want to get into the webcomic, and if they get flashed, they got flashed, or not.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the thing. And well, let's just go back a few steps. Like, nudity limits the reach of your webcomic because, okay, so there aren't as many places you could show that kind of work. Drunkduck is one of them, but a lot of like most other online things that you're going to host your webcomic on, you're going to have to be very careful about that for a number of reasons. So if you're on Tapas, Webtoons, or Comic Fury, or whatever other sites there are to host webcomics, you've just got to be careful about that, especially if you're on Instagram or Facebook or stuff like that. You have to be careful. I think DeviantArt, you could probably do anything, but that's just, DeviantArt's weird.
I don't remember because I haven't been there for ages, like years. So no, I don't remember. I do think, I do think that Comic Fury is a little bit the in-between step between the corporate and Drunkduck. So they do allow some stuff, just not how we allow it. There is some additional policing that is taking place. Not that I'm really aware of what exactly, but I do know that there is additional policing from what people coming to us from Comic Fury are saying. So there's that. But they are not like webtoons.
That's another aspect again, like policing stuff. So once you have restrictions, you have to have some kind of way of policing them. And because we're a lot more open and loose, we don't have to police as much. But there have been instances like, say if someone's going to show full sex and stuff like that and they don't rate it adult, well, sorry, but you're going to have to rate it adult. Like, we allow you to do this, but we only ask you to put that rating. Or if they're going to show like a lot of nudity and they're going to rate it teen, well, come on, there's not much of an issue. Just rate it mature. Like, just go along with the regulations. But we don't have to do that much because people are pretty like like clever and clued in. They don't really see that as much of a restriction. But there was a comic site where they were showing underage characters showing their genitals and stuff like that, and being in like playing doctor kind of situation, where I had to go to them and say, look, like either like age the characters up to make this appropriate, or like consider not being on the site, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna just go and ban that thing. I'm gonna, because it's an artist and they can make changes. They're a thinking person. So I went to them and I said, look, edit this, change the art or whatever, so they're adults, and then you can keep on doing that. But instead, they chose to just delete that comic. They have another comic on the site that they have, but which doesn't contravene the guidelines and the rules, so that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But they decided to delete that comic themselves, that's within their right to do. Yeah,
Well, their choice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
where it gets really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, there are limits. I mean,
and there should be.
Yeah.
And
but what I like about the Drunkduck is that it has a lot of democratic elements in that, within reason, everything is allowed. If it's not explicitly forbidden, it's allowed. And I like that. I like that a lot, as a matter of fact. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I mean, the fact that it's like censorship and banning and blocking. I'm sorry, Oz.
Yeah.
The fact that it's done kind of by machine and with no explanation sometimes, like suddenly some videos and comics are just blocked, censored or banned or whatever. The duck is, it's human beings. It's like Oz ends up looking at it and deciding. The great and powerful Oz.
Oh God!
But as a human being, and with sort of an idea of like what's appropriate, what might not be, and like can we change the rating and all that stuff. It's much better.
Well, we're small enough that can be done. I mean, like we might rag on Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that, for their use of a terrible, shitty AI junk that they use. But then again, they have got 1 billion users, so it's hard to be able to do that with humans. I mean, it is possible, and they could afford to do it with humans. They could afford to do that with that's the thing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm walking that back. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that, in that I totally get having the AI for like a first sieve of complaints and reports, but then if it gets appealed, you should have human eyes looking at that, and you can't do that. That's doable.
They have enough money that they could afford to employ 1 million people to be checkers. They could. They don't want to. They should be paying humans. They should not be allowed to use AI. They should, because they need to put that money back into society. Yeah. Oh my God, I just realized that.
But yeah, I do think that we are fortunate enough, and I hope I don't jinx it, that we have mostly users that are reasonable people, and they respect the rules. The rules are very few, so everyone is happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I've often said it, like, people imagine, like, to have a perfect government, you need to have it this way, we need to structure it that way. But really, to have a perfect government, you just need people to behave and be good. And then actually you wouldn't need a government. Because if people behaved and were good, you wouldn't need rules to govern.
Oh my God, we are watching us become an anarchist. Not even a communist. Oh my God.
But unfortunately, like, people don't always follow the rules and stuff like that. So
I'm teasing you. But you are right. I mean, in the sense that if you have few rules that make sense, everyone knows these rules, and the consequences are very clear to everybody on what happens if these rules are breached, then you have a higher chance of having normal, peaceful society. So
you do. I mean, that's one thing when of my like adminning style. Like I learned this over many years. The less adminning you do, the less telling people off you do, the more friendly they're going to behave and the more adult they're going to behave, because then they're not going to fall into the role of being like a kid or being someone who's contravening the rules or whatever. Because if you don't feel like you're contravening the rules or fighting against authority, then you won't misbehave a lot of the time. So yeah, and people are happier if they're not told, oh my god, you can't do this, you're bad for doing that. If you're not telling people off, then they're just gonna, have a more fun time. They're gonna enjoy being on the sites. Yeah. So yeah, we don't punish people for nudity.
well, yeah, because we also don't consider nudity a problem, and so long as you know that there's going to be nudity, everyone is happy.
They are happy. They are.
Whether they go to read it or they don't, everyone is happy.
Yeah, they're offended and they avoid it, which I imagine those people exist. But yeah.
And if you want to be naked, but while you're making your webcomic, by the way, that's fine too.
Yes.
Yeah, just put a towel down on your chair.
Just good sense. Yeah.
Don't want bum sweat everywhere. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and especially if you're a lady, you're protecting yourself as well. If you are.
Exactly. Avoid those yeast infections. Come on, guys. Come on. This is no brand stuff.
That was your PSA for the week.
Is this what anyone expected to hear when they clicked on the community stuff?
We have to ask, comment if you have reached this point. Comment if you expected this PSA in this podcast. So.
Yeah, look, I've been close to naked sometimes when I've been making webcomics because it's been so freaking hot in past years when I've been working on the computer. And there's nothing worse than being stuck in a hot room when you have to work on the computer because, I didn't have a tablet like the Samsung tablet where I could take it anywhere. I didn't have that back then. I was stuck working on the computer. I wasn't doing like drawing on a note, drawing in a drawing book or whatever. Stuck working on the Syntec, and it was freaking hot, and I was sweating my ass off. So there you go. That happens.
Sure.
That happens. And I suppose various people they are in similar situations. So even though your comic isn't nude, you are nude when you're working.
And we do ask that you put
I'm just glad for air conditioning. So.
What was that, Vince?
I said I'm glad we have air conditioning, and it's like a staple in Greece. So we don't need to resort to that.
And what you were saying, Baines?
Oh, no. Yeah, I was just going to say you should put a warning on those pages that you drew while you were nude, just in case someone doesn't want to.
Nakedly drawn.
Yeah.
Big red thing. One of those yellow things with the black borders,
Yes.
Naked.
Yeah. Pinky was drawn by a naked studio artist.
Naked studio. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yes, I like it.
And then I could do a performance pinky and stick it in. Like I could do performance pinky and draw it naked in front of a studio audience. Or have a naked studio. There are so many variations.
Well, now it's in the actual comic, yeah. So.
Oh dear.
So let's talk a little bit about how nudity features in a webcomic, in a comic. like the purposes, narratively speaking, because it is considering because society is not used to having people naked, seeing naked people. When you do draw a naked person and they will be fully naked in the panel, it does have certain ramifications, let's say, narratively speaking, as a tool.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there are a lot of different reasons for having nudity, and I don't think it's necessarily just about narrative. Because you might. The motivation for putting nudity in a webcomic might just be mainly for titillating readers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come up with a narrative reason for that. So.
Absolutely.
That drives your motivation for it. Or it might just be because you like drawing nude people. So you don't care about the audience, you just want to put nudity in there. So then you come up with a narrative justification for it. So, they lost their clothes. They all burnt off in an explosion.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a thing. And it does get you readers if that's your goal. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's how, like, narratively. So that's the approach I would take. Like, either I want to put it in, or I want to get readers, want to give them like a reward or something like that. So, but narratively, like, so we've put nudity in Bottomless Waitress in various ways, but Baines is the writer, so I'm not really privy to the narrative reasons for that. So
yeah, I mean, when in the one scene where characters were more naked, or the two scenes, I guess, my thought was to keep that as obscured as possible because all the waitresses are bottomless through the entire thing.
yeah.
And to me, kind of the whole, I don't know if I should be saying this to everybody, the thousands of people listening, should be private maybe, but like what I like about Bottomless Waitress is that they never mention the fact that they're bottomless. It's a non-issue. It's not even a factor. It's just kind of there, and we don't explain it. And I love that. You know, so that's why when people are more naked outside the diner, sorry, Tens, I like to obscure it a little more. And I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. I don't know. But there's no hard and fast rules on this, really.
I do think it works really well because it's funny. It's funny just because nobody pays attention to it. It's funny. If someone paid attention to it more than the occasional subtle look that patrons give to the waitresses, beyond that, if you had anything more, I think it would stop being funny.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was someone leering or that kind of thing, then it would be offensive. Pretty much.
I mean, those leers will be there, but yeah, it shouldn't be any different than it would be if it was a girl in a skirt, like an attractive person who was fully dressed.
Which is actually reality, really. I mean, it's like the fictional fantasy world of a webcomic where anything goes and you decide the rules. But that's actually reality. If there was a diner where people were bottomless all the time, that's actually what would happen. Like, people would not leer after all. They would just, that would just be a normal thing because we as humans adjust to stuff so quickly. And that's just how stuff works. I mean, like, I've done plenty of, like life modeling, stuff like that. Like, not myself. But I've been in plenty of life modeling classes, like through the 90s, my God, as an art student. And there's always a naked person there that you're drawing, but you're not looking at them as a sexual object. You're not leering at them. You're not checking them out or something like that. They're just there. They're just like a piece of the furniture. So that's just how things work.
Same goes for a nudist beach where everyone is naked. You get no looks of weirdness because everyone is naked. As a matter of fact, if someone goes there dressed like wearing a bathing suit, they are the ones that get the dirty looks and the salacious looks, like what are you here for, that sort of thing.
Get your clothes
Yeah,
off,
yeah,
you perv.
pretty much, yeah. And I know that because while I wasn't participating in a nudist beach, I got the feedback from someone who wanted to go to the particular beach because it was a very beautiful beach, and didn't want to completely undress, and they were basically chased out. So yeah.
Clothes pervert. Well, a funny story from a nude beach. So a couple of years ago, there's a nude beach not far from my house, and so my girlfriend and I, we decided to go down to the nude beach, right? So we went there, but it was super early in the morning, and we just just decided to go down. Fortunately, I decided to bring some sunscreen, but I just didn't have very much, and so we stripped off on the nude beach, and I just went like totally crazy with the sunscreen, like putting it on every single part of myself, because I know that I'm like a little white tissue that I'm just gonna burn up straight away. But in addition to that, I was like using the towel as a tent to give myself some extra coverage, because like bloody hell. And my girlfriend, she's like, like I'm fine, like I don't need this, like I'm like, what are you doing hiding underneath that towel? It's embarrassing, blah blah blah. And guess what happened? Her whole body was sunburned extra.
Lobster skin happened.
Exactly. I felt so sorry for her, but
Yeah.
also like it was her own fault totally. Like, Jesus, I was putting the sunscreen on myself and like giving this example. I don't want skin cancer all over myself. Jesus Christ. So yeah.
If you wanted to use I thought you were going to get in trouble in this story for using a towel. Like, why are you covering yourself up,
sir? Sir, I like the sir on the end.
We don't like that behavior here.
Oh dear. But yeah, like if you're gonna go to a nude beach, wear the sunscreen. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, wear it everywhere.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. You can get very badly injured by the sun. Yeah. Very badly injured.
Yeah,
man. Absolutely.
Fortunately,
again, this is what people wanted out of a cast about nakedness and
that's a second PSA, right?
PSA, yes.
Sunscreen on nude beaches.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah. What I'm going back to webcomics in that what you can show with nudity, assuming that the goal is not just to pull in the readers because nudity. You could show how characters react to it, who is a prude and who isn't, who feels comfortable in their body and who doesn't, without needing to talk about it. Just show it because one, for example, has no issue being without a towel in the locker rooms, and the other one has an issue. It wants to be covered up a little bit, even in the locker rooms, for example. So that's one thing. Or you could have, like, if you are setting up a civilization, the level of nudity that is acceptable in public also says a lot about how this civilization is set up. If you are, setting up if you are trying to quickly characterize a civilization. Like the more they are nude, the more they come across as closer to nature, more attuned with surroundings, less um, usually also less technically advanced, although that doesn't necessarily need to be a thing. And
that idea is sort of based on our own idea of history and
yeah,
European civilization and stuff like that. I mean, it's not
totally.
necessarily true for level of sophistication because, say, like the ancient Greeks, the Minoans were very civilized, but they showed boobs out all the time, and
Well, only the Minoans. The ancient Greeks were, when it came to female anatomy, if it wasn't on the sculpture, they were super prudish about it. So
but the Minoans specifically were
the Minoans, let them out, baby.
like they had this great thing where like the women would have voluminous skirts down to their feet, but nothing on the boobs specifically. So there's outfit all the way to the boobs.
Yeah, the boobs were showcased.
Just were out by themselves.
Yeah, the boobs were showcased. Like they had like a sort of bra-like situation complete with corsetry to push up and forward the naked boobs. It was amazing. Yeah.
Wow. It's like, these see the boobs right here presented.
Yes.
But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
it's highlighting any body part. Like a lot of modern clothes highlight boobs anyway because of bras that are designed to give a shape to the body, and especially like say the 1950s.
Exactly. Oh my God. 1960s. The ones that had the artificial nipple to push through the fabric.
Right. The cone style of the 50s bra.
Yeah, the 50s, cones.
Yeah.
The artificial shape. So, very much.
Or I don't remember which part of medieval times, but like in Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet medieval times, where they had these giant cod pieces showing the family jewels.
Comical shaped cod pieces that were extra large. I think it probably came from Italy and Spain, those sort of countries, and then was exported out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys think it was like culturally it was saying something about their civilization, or was it just scandalous and exploitative that the Ewoks were naked?
Were they though? I mean,
you're wearing a headdress and nothing else. Come on, disgusting.
Well, Donald Duck is bottomless.
Yeah, that's where it came from. I think. Yeah, that's true. Like even the chief just had like a satchel and like a thing on his
head. But for Minoans, I do think that, I mean, there has been some speculation that because it's highly likely that the society was very matriarchal, that the free boobs thing was, first of all, ceremonial, like that was the official, really ceremonial dress, and it really symbolized the matriarch.
Right. So it's like the female version of a codpiece.
Yes.
So to be in the full ceremonial panoply of Minoan, you have to have your huge, voluminous, cone-shaped dress, boobs proudly out, and holding a snake in each hand.
Yeah.
At all times. If you look at the statues, they're great. I love them.
Yeah, me too.
It's fantastic. So, yeah, it's just it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's interesting how nudity can be culturally appropriate. I think it generally, in history, it has generally sort of correlated with the the temperature, the heat of the place that you're living in, which is a pretty obvious thing, I think.
Makes sense, yeah.
So,
It's practical.
Like
Yeah,
in Africa. Sorry, go on, Tom.
No, I was just going to say that what constitutes nudity is also important. There was a time where seeing a woman's ankle or a calf was racy, like very, very erotic. And now we think nothing of it because we see it all the time, and it's not considered. It's not considered nudity. So
Wow,
that's right.
I mean,
So these definitions can change. For just a split second, I thought you said if you saw a woman's uncle. That's what I thought you said.
That's as naked as you can get.
I was like, wait, what? Is the uncle? But yeah, so it's true. Like, yeah, lift up the cuff of the pants or the hem of the skirt. Oh, scandalous.
Well, say, if bottomless waitress, like the whole thing of bottomlessness, even though we treat that as normal or whatever, we just said, but bottomless in general in society is sort of thought of as more nude than nude. So that's another kind of thing that makes bottomless waitress special and funny and cheeky, because just being bottomless is like, that's a worse thing than being naked, because that's more naked.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
It is weird, but it is true though.
Yeah.
Like almost naked. That's used to great effect to tease audiences.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. Like, if you have a totally naked person, they're naked, whatever. But if you put a hat on that naked person, suddenly, oh, wow, what?
Yeah.
Strangeness in shoes. It's the more clothes you put on a naked person. So, but if you put trousers on a naked person, okay, that sort of breaks the illusion.
Much less naked,
Yeah.
I guess, no, if you accessorize a naked person, it becomes weird. Like, stuff that you expect to go over clothes. Then it's a bit weird. Or
give
a
me
lot.
a scarf, a nice watch.
I was going to say a scarf and a watch.
Gloves, sunglasses.
A belt. How about
a belt?
Yeah.
Precisely, yeah. So give them all the bits and pieces, but just leave off the trousers.
Yeah.
And it gets more scandalous, strangely. Like, whether it's a man or a woman, it doesn't matter.
Interesting. Yeah.
Really, because if we're talking about like not covering up the bottom half, then it doesn't, because like it's a weird thing in our society that boobs are considered naked, because then that hasn't always been the case in various, like we talked about, like Minoan civilization, but a lot of other cultures as well. Especially like if you're talking about like Southeast Asia, Melanesia, South America, like, but anywhere that it's warm and it's not practical to be covered up in sweaty clothes, being partially naked was always culturally appropriate. I mean, we've sort of, a lot of people say, oh, this is like European Puritanism or patriarchalism or whatever, coming from Europe. And I think the truth of it is like more simpler than that. I mean, our culture has been focused around wearing clothes, and we've had taboos focused around that because our culture is focused on wearing clothes, because people have been cold. And it's just sort of, it's become embedded in the culture, and then we have exported our culture, because our culture is based on how we look and how we dress and all that kind of stuff, and we've imposed that on other people, sure, but we've also imposed that like culturally, because they want to copy the culture, the dominant culture, and they've taken that on board, and it's just organically that has just gone around the world. Yeah, this is something that has it's been exported. That was a damn word I was trying to think of. Exported. But I don't think it I think the whole idea of European patriarchalism or something to do with the patriarchy is not quite true, because things aren't usually that top down. People imagine societal change as being a very top down thing, but that's really not the case. It's far more organic than that, and it's not immutable. It can be changed without protest, without fights. It just can be altered. So yeah, I don't think I would say it's the patriarchy.
I'd say that patriarchy or matriarchy, depending on the system, would manifest in fashion, but in an appropriate way for where this civilization is developing. So yeah, if everyone is super hot and they might get apoplectic if they cover up, nobody is going to be covering up. the nudity element will be focused elsewhere, like certain adornments or certain extra things that don't keep heat inside, like don't capture heat. Those are going to be the things that code, if you like, for patriarchy or for matriarchy or for whatever this society stands for. So yeah, I wouldn't call the boobs being covered up a sign of patriarchy.
Patriarchy.
Yes, and not being covered up is necessarily freedom. We have to see the context, as in all things.
Yeah, it's very contextual, because a lot of societies where we think of as being free and all this. I remember, like, okay, so this is another a weird aside. So there's this great little Instagram video of these kickboxers in Thailand, and they have the kickboxing fight, and this guy wins, and then as soon as he wins, he like dances around like a happy girl, and he poses and does a little twirl and stuff like that, and people go, oh my god, oh wait, that's something like didn't expect like a fighter to do this. And this is like a proud gay man in who's also a kickboxer in Thailand, and people like trying to come up with explanations of that, saying, oh, Thailand's more kind of, they don't have hate and they're more accepting, and because they're Buddhist, and like all that's bullshit. Like, Buddhist cultures are just as conservative as other cultures. They have just as much hate, and and Thailand specifically is a culture that is incredibly militaristic and very conservative and very focused on like war and the military and all this kind of stuff, and they always have been. But they have a big sex trade in that country, and that's like a very traditional part of, as well as they're being very very conservative, they've always had a sex trade. And what comes along with the sex trade is, within that microcosm of that smaller microculture, that becomes accepting, because people are doing taboo stuff and they're doing like transgressive stuff, so they become more accepting, and that's where they become more accepting of gay culture and all this kind of stuff within that smaller part. So in a country like Thailand, they can have that dualism in society, but only focused around larger cities where that kind of stuff, can happen. And this is the same in most parts of the world. Larger cities tend to be places with a much more accepting microcultures. So when you're in like the small towns and things like rural areas and stuff like that, they don't tend to be able to support those microcultures. So anyway, in Thailand, yeah, you can find that kind of stuff because of the large sex trade, but it is not doesn't represent the country as a whole, which people have to realize. Like, there can be very specific reasons why certain things are allowed and why certain things are accepted within cultures and countries. And it's not to do with bigger things like, oh yeah, Buddhism this, Buddhism that. Like, no, you have a massive like porn industry in the United States, and that's not because Christianity accepts porn.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the biggest porn industries in the world, but it's nothing to do with Christianity or whatever. It's because of that microculture within, I don't know, Los Angeles, where they have that big industry. You know, that's allowed there. It's also in some parts of the US it's more accepting than others. Say in the Midwest it's not as accepting of that kind of stuff. So it can depend. Anyway, so that's my side. I just thought that was quite interesting.
I have no idea about Thailand, I'll be honest. But I'm going to talk about Greece. To give an example of that. Like Greece, as a rule, is by default conservative in terms of nudity and what is decent and, you know, all of that stuff. Which is why I would advise, if you meet a Greek person, to assume they are a prude and let them tell you whether, like, how much of a prude they are, culturally speaking. Without that meaning that they are, they're not bigots, but they get shy and self-conscious about themselves very easily. Like, oh, I'm naked, or, you know, things like this. However, unlike a lot of Christian nations, because we do have freedom of religion, but we are an officially Christian state. It is in the constitution. We do not cover up, like when I say we, I mean women, do not cover up in church. We don't cover our hair. As you find, for example, Catholic ladies doing, or other Orthodox ladies. If you go in Russia, or I don't know if I mean other than Orthodox variations.
Yeah, so, Serbians and
like Greek Orthodox people will not cover up as a rule in church.
Because hair, Taz is talking about, not the whole body. The whole body is covered, just not the head.
The whole, sorry guys. I mean, I was talking about head cover. Because why? Because hair is not considered nude in religious terms. It's your hair. It's fine. You know, God has made your hair. It's fine. Although God has made the rest of you as well, but that's not fun. and the reason for that is not because your body is sinful. So I'm talking about how a society practices certain things, right? But it is a matter of respect towards the divine and the other person, so that you want everyone to be able to concentrate and get into the spirit of prayer and blah blah blah, and that's why you cover up, not because you have anything sinful on you as a body.
To be respectful.
So you have a very conservative society. However, certain things are outrageously liberal just because it's not considered. It's what I'm saying is that the culture can have elements of that are other cultures see as outrageous, while also being conservative. That was the point.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, there is. And it's weird, isn't it? Because people like to simplify. Of course, to understand something, we need to simplify it, and we simplify too much. Like people will look at ancient Greece and say, "Oh, look, anything goes. Look, because the naked statues, it must mean that anything went." Or like the nude, racy pictures on pots and stuff like that must mean that anything went. But
no, those were the porn, like Playboy of the time. Like nobody had it on their shelves for everyone to see. Those were private collections.
They survive because people have them in their special porn
Exactly.
view.
Honestly, that's why we have so many, because they were protected.
No one must ever see my porn pot collection.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so yeah, we wrongly simplify a lot of stuff, and that's silly. Like I watched this excellent YouTube, we've talked about him before, Metatron, and he was talking about like some of those myths, and he was saying, look, actually there's only like 5 examples of this that have ever been discovered in ancient Greece, and it's like things that everyone believes, and no, these things like aren't like widespread and everywhere. This is just like one particular archaeologist with an agenda that's claimed this, but these things don't exist.
And that's another thing that is a little bit enervating, where you understand your own culture, especially because if you speak the same language, even though it has completely shifted in terms of connotations and stuff like that, you still understand enough to be able to tell certain things. And aside of the stuff that you have inherited from these people, and you are overruled. Like, no, I'm going to tell you what your culture says.
Yeah, this
that
is
really
always that.
Immediately under my skin. Like, yes, please tell me what Greeks do. I'm all ears.
In common parlance, that's the mansplaining. I'll just mansplain to you mansplaining. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an old thing, telling people what they do.
Yeah.
There's always someone to tell you what you do. Okay, so doing nudity in webcomics, like, it's fun to do. It can be intimidating. And often, say, for my style of drawing, I often draw characters nude to begin with and then dress them. But how do you go when, like actually drawing nude bodies and realizing you're actually not very good at drawing nude bodies? And it's as bad as, like, you know, the whole thing, like, of like being naked and thinking, oh my god, I actually look pretty shit naked, so I'd rather prefer to cover up. Like, sometimes that actually happens with your figures. Like, they look terrible naked because you don't have the ability to draw them well, and it can be embarrassing. So clothes really like putting clothes on your figures doesn't just like cover up their modesty or like protect other people from you know, being offended. It actually like saves your figures and makes them look more interesting.
Oh.
Do you find that, Baines? Like
undrawn when I draw characters?
Yeah, like, okay, so
No, I don't know about that.
Alright, so look, have you ever decided to draw a figure nude and realized, oh, actually, this looks terrible. I need to I'm shit at drawing nude figures. I have to
I feel that way when I'm drawing non-nude figures or drawing anything else. Also,
but it's like being nude as a person. Like, one of the things is, you know, we say, oh, this is like modesty, and this like maybe like patriarchy does that thing, or like, you know, we're being respectful for other people by wearing clothes. There's all that, but there's also the fact of, hang on, I just don't like the way I look nude. So I'm like, these clothes make me look better.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every day I have mirrors.
Like, yeah.
And then I think I don't look that great in clothes either, but it's at least better than the naked version.
That's one of the great things about clothes. Clothes like can make you look way better than you do.
It's true.
They're awesome. Like, when you're naked, there's nothing to hide. It's just you. There's no way to look better when you're naked. You can't improve that look, like unless
True.
you're accessorizing, like we were talking about before. You're just naked. Whereas,
True.
if you've got like your fancy jeans, your smart shirts, I don't know, whatever. Like if you're talking about Baines, like his amazing dresses.
Yes, big floppy hats.
The big floppy hats. I love those. But...
Yes.
Oh dear. So yeah, that's another weird thing. Like clothes actually enhance a body and make them look better.
I remember I learned about this concept in a Mad magazine, which is where I learned most things in life when I was younger. There was like a cartoon that said there was a bunch of single panel cartoons about sort of love and relationship questions, survey or whatever, and it said like 80% of men feel that they look better in clothes than without. And the cartoon was like a woman sort of standing there in a negligee looking annoyed, and a guy sitting in bed with a sort of his eyebrow arched, like making a seductive look, but he's like wearing a full suit.
That's his version of lingerie.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, a lot of ladies like a man in a suit. That's like a that's a thing.
For sure, man.
It cuts a nice figure.
Yep.
You could wear your suit to bed and see if that works. Follow the mad.
No, it won't work there. But you can learn to take it off nicely.
True.
Put the right stripper song on, and you can undress in a stylish way. Yeah, but that's the thing. Okay, so even for a lot of societies where they were more naked, because it was hot, they still had clothes to enhance the figure and to make people look more stylish and stuff. So name any society that's had less clothes. And I still want to go back to the idea of like our European idea, like of less civilized societies wore less clothes. It's just because it's hotter. That's the only reason. So
yeah,
no one is less civilized. It's an old idea. And I know Tance wasn't saying that. Tance was saying it was the impression of less civilization. So yeah, like say if you're like in Melanesia, somewhere like that, like Papua New Guinea, something like that, the traditional kind of outfits of the men were just these like woven basket kind of like cod pieces, these amazing cod pieces they wear. Like it would have a fake phallus that would go all the way up to the chest.
Yeah,
strapped around the chest. It's bizarre, this thing. And of course, the real like penis doesn't go all the way. It doesn't do that at all.
I didn't
whatever.
know that.
But this great basket woven thing is like all the way up here. It's incredible. And of course that's to enhance the figure and do all sorts of like stylish effects that you couldn't do if you're naked because you've got no options. So
now that you mention like European centric versus everyone else in terms of how nudity is interpreted in your webcomic, or if you need that sort of thing, having culture shock based on nudity, like when two characters from different civilizations or societies or whatever meet, and one is quote unquote naked and the other isn't. It's interesting to see how they would react to each other. So they both go dressed in their own idea, but one finds the other naked, and the one that is supposedly naked finds the other one ridiculous, like a walking tent or something like that. So that would be an interesting show don't tell sort of characterization of the backgrounds of these two characters as well.
That is interesting. Yeah, I often like we look back at ancient Romans, ancient Greeks, and see what they wore. Say like the Roman thing of like having these little skirts. That
Hmm.
was like a because all the men would be wearing mini skirts. That was just the style. And I mean, not at all stages. Sometimes they had more clothes or less clothes because, God, ancient Rome lasted for how many
1,000.
hundreds of years, thousands of years? Yeah, so long, and obviously you go through a lot of fashion changes in that time, but there are a lot of miniskirts. So if an ancient Roman met someone from a different culture, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they would
Yeah.
perceive it. I think that is recorded, like say when they met the Celts or something, or like the naked Picts. They
I
had
don't
different
know.
reactions.
What I do know though is that ancient Greeks, especially around the time of you know chiton and other items of clothing, like basically draped dresses that they were
Mm.
wearing, pants were considered barbaric or
Oh,
very low class. So there you have it.
wow. Well, I know that was one of the outfits that Celts wore. Contrary to popular belief, Celts did not wear kilts ever.
Hmm.
They wore trousers. Kilts came from the Greeks, I think. That was like something they adopted from Greek people wearing that, which is
Could
yeah.
be.
People don't realize that was like so Scottish people didn't start wearing kilts until well after that culture had divorced itself totally from anything to do with Celts or anything like that. This was like I don't know, like 1100 AD or 1200, something like that, were the first recorded kilts in Scotland.
Yeah, sounds right. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it was a bit of weirdness. So yeah, it was just a fashion thing. It wasn't an old traditional culture thing like we imagine it. So yeah, Celts used to wear trousers, plaid trousers, bare chests often, but pants. It's just not something we think they were like more dressed than the more civilized people. Well,
Oh yeah.
civilized in Greeks and Romans and all kinds of things. So that's an interesting thing to think about. I like that idea, Tance. The more dressed people versus the less dressed people, and seeing what they think.
Hmm.
So, all right, we're sort of coming towards the end of the Quackcast now. What about nudity and all our webcomics? How have we like Tance? You said in the video, I think, that you have not had much nudity in Without Moonlight,
No.
like specific nudity.
I have had the bed scene where you don't have dressed people in bed, especially after they have done the knob.
Relations.
Yeah. So they are naked. So they are naked in their frame. Um, but of course, they are strategically placed. The bubbles are placed in such a way where we don't really see the the, the really salacious bits. Let's say. And I do also have a sex scene that I also don't really show. We see the legs of the people performing, and I do
Oh,
think that is better because it makes your brain fills in the rest, and that's worse.
yeah.
And it's not a nice sex scene, is what I'm saying. Um, but beyond that, I don't have real nudity because everyone was. If Greeks are prudes now, in the 40s they were super prudes. They would not show themselves undressed ever.
Oh,
Unless like the only place where it was appropriate was working class or agrarian people that had to go wash in the river because they had no shower. So that was okay then. That was the only time. So
yeah. That is a weird thing. Okay, I was asking about people's comics, but I digress again. So there's this idea that say Victorian people or say early 20th century people would be very like prudish and wouldn't show nudity, but it depended on class. because, like, say people going to the beach, if you're a certain class, you had to be dressed. And so women would all have these dresses that were a particular, all of them would have these particular styles. So there's like a sailor suit, like a women's sailor suit, weirdly, like a dress with these stripes around the bottom and like a flapper on the neck, you know, a little cape thing with stripes. And that was like the common gym outfit and swimming gear. And the men would have the stripy kind of gear, so they'd be covered as well. But say if you were lower class, you'd swim down at the river or the lake or whatever, you'd go naked, and that would just be a thing. So that was just a class thing. So the idea we have that they're all prudes is sort of just based on looking back in the past and only seeing the upper class people, which is, you know, what people wrote about in fiction and, you know, depicted in paintings.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think Émile Zola illustrates this very well, where you have the upper classes considering that the lower classes, working class, underclass, are immoral people because they don't cover up. Of course, they don't cover up because they have no clothes. It's as simple as that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fascinating thing. But okay, so back to, say, nudity in webcomics. In Pinky TA, I used to have more nudity, and I used to be more open to it. But then I had more responsibility on the site, and I sort of felt that I had to sort of, you know, set a better example. And plus I wanted to have my work to be able to be more viewable to more people, which meant I had to self-censor. And so I started to internalize it, and then I just wouldn't have nude scenes, so I wouldn't need a censor because I just wouldn't have nudity. So although I'm more open, now I've realized that, more open to having more nudity now in it, I would still censor, but I would actually show it and censor it rather than just not show it at all, which is what I've come to do. But in Bottomless Waitress, we do show everything. And that's a totally different thing, because the whole point of it is to be cheeky.
You are very cheeky.
Literally.
Cheeks everywhere.
Lots of cheeks. Yeah.
They turn the other cheek and show another one. So, Baines, you don't show any nudity in typical Strange or Chatterbox or your kaiju comic? Or?
No, the kaiju comic came the closest on some recent pages, where that just, I don't know, I was never planning to even go there really, but yeah, the character was naked, the characters were naked, and I was very, I put a lot of thought into, like, should I do this? Like, I don't know if I should or want to or whatever. But I censored it by keeping everything naughty kind of out of frame. It's all suggested. It just puts it, if it was sort of showing more, it would be fine, but it would just put the comic into a different category, I think. It would be something different at that point, which is, it's like I said, that's fine, but it's not necessarily what I wanted this version of Kaiju Valentine to be. Well, who knows? Maybe a more adult version could be done.
Well, the higher tier patrons.
Yeah, not even there. It's not even there. It's the same on Patreon. It's just you get it ahead of time in this. Even on Patreon, like the people. Yeah. Anyway, I won't go into all that. But maybe a different identity with a different Patreon, a different audience would be.
You're missing a trick there, Baines. You should have said, yeah, well, if you sign up to Patreon, maybe you'll see, maybe.
I mean, yes.
You will end up with frustrated patrons. That's never good.
Exactly. I don't want it. If I said it, I'd have to do it, and some patrons I don't think want to see it. So I'll have to figure that out. I know Oz wants to see it, but other
always
other hate readers always these angry emails all the time.
Yeah, I've got to do fan art for a Kaiju Valentine full of nudity. Pose it on base. It would be
Yeah, but always
glorious.
suggested, always off frame, and maybe very suggestive in some scenes. Not just in that comic, but other comics. But yeah, sort of keeping it out of frame or whatever. Sort of, I like that better.
Yeah, well, there's a certain skill to suggested nudity, really, isn't there? Showing but not showing. It really is. And, you know, even in Bottomless Waitress we talk about nudity in Bottomless Waitress, but really we don't show much nudity. For being called Bottomless Waitress and, like, us saying there's nudity all the time, we skirt it cleverly and we rarely ever show things.
You see
hiding.
butts, I mean, but that's about it usually. Maybe a little.
And even butts are often obscured by apron.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. You show the cheeks, but not the crevasse.
Not the crack.
Yeah.
So the Marianas Trench.
Well, so it's a little bit teasing, I should say.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a certain skill. The more you tease people, the more kind of eager they get to see something. And in Bottomless Waitress, we do reward people. We do sort of show things occasionally, and we will show more in future, which sort of keeps people going. I think that's the skill to that type of teasing, and I really do enjoy that kind of teasing because you get to be so crafty and clever. When you just show stuff, then it's just shown. There's no more mystery,
and it's suddenly kind of less interesting in a way. Yeah, by far. I mean, like it might be satisfying on a level, but it's like suddenly it's like okay, well now it's all there's no mystery. Yeah.
So yeah, you tease and you warm people up to something, and then you cool them down, and then you warm them up. Oh, you might see something, and then you. And God, Bottomless Waitress is like a gold mine. It's a bottomless gold mine of stuff we can do.
This makes me think as a tangent, somewhat of a tangent, like superhero comics. Their uniforms would be so tight, skin tight. So it was like looking at naked people, just kind of recolored. Like maybe you see the lines of gloves and boots, but a lot of their uniforms were like so tight, and probably still are.
Oh yeah,
kind of interesting.
And yet,
go ahead.
People don't react to that like if it was colored in a flesh tone. They don't, which is basically the outline is the same.
Yeah.
Line work.
Yeah, you would often not even see a fold in the material of the uniform. It's just literally a naked person, but colored purple or blue.
Yeah.
It could.
The only way to get that is body paint.
Yeah, that it could easily have been body paint.
Yeah.
Which, however, there have been these experiments of people walking around naked but with a full body paint that simulates clothes, and people don't react to them. They react to them like they would if they were clothed. So there may be some truth to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that superhero nudity, there's one thing we don't really consider is the fact that these figures are idealized to the point of ridiculousness, especially the male figures. You know, the muscularity of these figures is just ridiculous. And I was thinking about that because there was this stupid comedy that was recommended to me on Amazon Prime, and it's called Naked in Scotland, I think. And the premise of it is, like, it was this idiot premise. This guy finds a naked woman in his car, and she's sort of covering up with an envelope or something. And, you know, these people are chatting, and there's, like, various situations that force them together. And so he's driving her to Scotland, and she hasn't got any clothes on, and blah, blah, blah. And eventually, like, he, like, takes off his shirt to give her his shirt to wear, and his muscles are just, like, ridiculous. She looks at him and goes, oh my god, oh wow, you really work out or whatever. And, you know, that's eventually shown on the screen, like, the level of his muscles. And initially you think, oh my god, that man really is like so muscular. It's quite impressive. But then you see, like, because he is so incredible, you know, the muscles are so well defined. It's gross. It's just it's the muscles are defined to a disgusting kind of degree, and it just looks unnatural and like insectile or like raw
Yeah,
meat kind of thinking of those kind of
not
things.
very
And it's,
human. Mm.
yeah, and it's because I mean, it's not natural, really, because in order for someone's muscles to stand out that much, you have to dehydrate, like seriously, like 3 days worth of dehydration to the point of fainting. That's how, you know, like competition muscle builders do this, or actors for movies. Like anyone will tell you that's what they do. That's, you know, because you can't have that muscle definition without that level. So it's not a natural thing.
Get that man a donut and some Gatorade.
But yeah, it is quite disgusting, and obviously that man would have like felt it. That actor would have felt a bit not subconscious, self-conscious. So he would have exercised and, you know, dehydrated in order to look his very best for this scene. But yeah, that does look a bit gross. And I'm thinking, like, the ridiculous muscle definition of superheroes, it's gone a bit too far, and it does look a bit. So if you showed them nude instead of having, like, you know, the painted on outfits, they would look gross.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's too much.
Yeah, new one, maybe more so with newer comics, which I don't really read that stuff at all anymore. But, yeah, even back in the day, like, you could see abs through someone's shirt. It's really impossible.
Yeah, but, yeah, that's. And you think about it, like, so. Captain, no, I mean, say, look, the 80s actors, Schwarzenegger.
X-Man. No, He-Man.
He-Man, yeah.
He-Man's quite muscular. But say the 80s actors, Schwarzenegger and Stallone, were known as the big muscle man actors, right? And they didn't have abs. You look at their figures, and they didn't have the six packs.
Yeah, that came later. That
and obviously their bodies would have had those muscles. So everyone does have a six pack underneath the layers of skin and fat and whatever. But because the fashion wasn't for the dehydration, in order to make those things obvious, they just didn't show it, and it wasn't visible in the movies. So it's a recent thing, really.
I heard someone say, I don't know if this is true, but did Brad Pitt in Fight Club, was that sort of a pivotal moment in, like, extreme low body fat, like in his abs, you know, when he's in that movie? It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, you look at that and you think, oh yeah, I want to look like that.
Yeah, like, yeah, it doesn't look weird. It looks like, oh man, that'd be great to look like that. But, you know, I got a pizza coming. I refuse it.
All the while, I'm thinking that all of this hyper muscle profile, I don't know, super high definition of muscles. Generally, it has been shown in research to appeal to guys a lot more than women. Although supposedly, like the zeitgeist, the urban myth is that women want the super definition of, you know, everyone to be like you took a pump and pumped them up, and this is they have ballooned into this shape. Women like exercised men, but not this super extreme superhero level muscle definition. They want the exercised normal quote unquote thing. So, and it's a lot more natural, is what I'm saying. And if guys knew that, and industries allowed them to know that, they would be a lot less stressed.
I mean, one of the myths is you look at, like, a muscular person, you go, oh, that's a Greek god. That that person has a
Yeah,
figure
have
of
you
a
seen
Greek
the
god.
statues?
Yeah, Greek gods don't have um like abs. That's not a thing. Like they have the 4-pack, which is the typical like upper abdominal stuff, but they don't have 6-packs or 12-packs or whatever. Like some
Sometimes they
8.
don't even have like they are all strong men. Especially like for example, look at the statues of Zeus or Poseidon that are older men. Usually they're depicted as older men, like in their 40s. Um, they are well exercised. They look like they have a lot of strength in their bodies, but they are not puffed up to oblivion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the muscle definition, they're not like dehydrated muscles. They're not cut
no.
like that. Things are rounded and they look more real. So there's, I think from memory, there was the 2 main kind of male figures, or 3 main kind of figures. And you have the wrestler figure,
Mm-hmm.
which is Zeus and Poseidon, and then you have like the runner figure, which is the slimmer kind
Yeah.
of man. So the wrestler figure will have a beard and they'll be big and beefy and strong,
Mm-hmm.
and whereas the runner figure will be beardless.
Younger,
Yeah,
depicting
younger
younger
man.
gods and younger, demigods and stuff. And yeah, leaner.
So Mercury
Hmm.
versus
Yeah,
Zeus.
again, very exercised, super fit, right? Very lean,
Hmm.
but not ballooned. Like the definition is something that is achievable basically if you apply yourself to it. It's not something that you need to hurt your body to achieve.
Mm-hmm. And we know, like, most ancient Greeks weren't big,
No.
muscly people, because they have a lot of great statues of philosophers and things.
You only need to listen to Aristophanes and then you will know the body type of most of the Greeks. Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, and ancient Romans the same thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, we do have all this great idealized forms in their sculptures. So let that be a lesson to you as well. Idealized nudity has always been around.
Yeah.
It's just not quite
And
necessarily.
usually it makes you feel bad because it's either unattainable or you are too poor to have the time to invest in, making your body into that, which is also another thing.
And according to Greek sculpture, ladies don't have vaginas. They don't exist.
They have. Okay, and that is actually very interesting in that they have these very baby face vaginas. If you have to go real close, which is creepy to a statue, to see the beginning of the vagina, like not the vulva, the beginning of the vulva, and
Yeah.
yeah, and that is historically true in the sense that women were required to shave, otherwise it was considered vulgar and unladylike to have
Wow.
bushes, let's say.
I did not realize that.
Hmm.
Did not realize that. Yeah, because it just that idea came to me when someone mentioned ages ago that they, maybe it was Pitface. Like she'd been trying to find a vagina on a Greek statue and hadn't been able to find one, and they thought, of course they have vaginas, but yeah, it's really hard to to see anything on
Yeah.
Greek statues. Like you'll have statues that is just a plinth with a head on it and a penis.
Hmm.
There's those, but yeah, the other version no. So obviously there was a different way of looking at and what was taboo and what wasn't. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. I think we've probably gone and covered this topic and clothed it quite well.
We uncovered this topic.
We uncovered, yes. It's laid bare, totally naked.
Yes.
So, well, we can finish off
Mm-hmm.
the nude cast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Quackcast number 639 and the nude cast.
Yay.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.